so let's get to actually finding out what's going on for you and what things are holding you back. To do this, we're going to do a really great exercise called the tapping tree, which was created by my friend Lindsay Kenny, an EFT practitioner who's been really generous to share this with us. It's a great way to get clear on what is holding us back from losing weight. There's a graphic of the tapping tree for you to fill out for yourself, which you can download on this page. But you don't need to have to use that printout. You can also just draw simply a tree yourself on a piece of paper that looks like the one you see here on the screen. What matters most is that you actually fill in the tree yourself. So there are 4 basic parts of the tapping tree. The first part is the leaves, which are the side effects or the symptoms. This is your weight loss situation. This is the reality of what's going on. So for the leaves, you might write 40 pounds overweight, or I have cravings for junk food, or I don't like to exercise, or even just I don't feel good enough in my body. Whatever your reality is right now around your weight and your body, write that in. And don't worry about getting any of these right or having a lot of answers for each spot. If all you write is I'm 40 pounds overweight and that's what you want to work on, that's totally fine. You might only have 1 or 2 items for the leaves, or you might have a few. This is as far as most people tend to go when it comes to looking at their weight loss challenges. They look at themselves in the mirror and they say, I'm overweight, so I need to go on a diet and exercise. And then they attempt to diet and exercise and they fail to go below the surface to address the real problem. And when you've spent years trying to lose weight, it's hard to understand that weight loss isn't actually the problem. The weight is simply a symptom of an imbalance in your life. Cravings, fatigue, mood swings, insomnia are all symptoms. Now, this is the first step that you want to address in the process, and typically the easiest to identify because it's what appears on the surface. Just by focusing on your symptoms while tapping, you can actually experience a shift. Let me share one of my favorite and super funny stories that perfectly shares how well it works on cravings, which again are simply symptoms. This is a post that went up within our community. She wrote, I seriously love Twizzlers. I have loved them since I was a little girl. My high school boyfriend would woo me with pound-sized bags of them. Yesterday afternoon, my son was asleep on the couch. Next to him on the table was a giant sack of piñata candy from a party last week. I found myself peering into the sack, looking for my beloved Twizzlers. None in there. But I remembered there might be a bag way up on the refrigerator. My mouth literally began to salivate. All I could think of was ripping open that bag, smelling that wonderful Twizzler smell, and eating one after another. I made a beeline for the kitchen, but as I got to the fridge, I diverted to the living room, where I sat on the couch and tapped about how bad I wanted to snarf Twizzlers. Suddenly, I did not want those Twizzlers. I was almost in shock. I actually tried to want the Twizzlers, but by that point, I couldn't have cared less about them. Amazing. So how cool is that? That's just an example of how you can use tapping while simply focusing on the symptom. So I encourage you to give this a try next time you have a craving. When you feel that craving, simply express how much you want that food while you tap. I don't want you to stop here though, because you won't always get a result like that by just working on the symptom. Often you need to go deeper to create lasting change. And I know that it can be difficult at first to understand that weight gain is simply a symptom of a deeper challenge going on. But stick with me here. I want to make sure you get the clarity you're looking for. So let's keep going. The second part of the tree are the branches, your emotions around your weight loss and how you feel about your body. We're going to start to go a little deeper and spend a little more time working on each of these sections. And I'm going to ask you to be totally honest with yourself and to really connect with this. I want you to go through this process as a distant observer of what's coming up as you begin to fill in this tree. You don't need to relive any feelings or memories. Simply give them a title as you write them down. So in the branches, I want you to write down your most common emotions around weight loss and body confidence. And I'll actually give you a series of questions to help you answer this. We'll start with questions directly related to weight loss and then move beyond that. So how do you feel about weight loss in general? Do you feel frustrated, angry, even annoyed? What's the feeling for you when you think about weight loss in general? How do you feel about your weight loss journey? Sad, deprived? What emotions come up? What emotion do you feel when you think about your weight now? How do you feel around food? Conflicted, stressed, desperate? And again, I just want you to write whatever comes to mind. The next question, how do you feel when you try to eat well? Do you feel deprived, restricted, maybe even pressured? How do you feel when you eat something you're not supposed to? Do you feel guilty? Do you get angry at yourself or frustrated? And again, the first thing that pops in your mind, just trust it's the right thing. Jot it down. As you write this down, I want to share a quick story with you. I remember one time going out with my friend and mentor, Ariane de Bonvoisin, and she's a best-selling author of the book, The First 30 Days. She had been raving about this gelato place in New York City and claimed that they had the best chocolate gelato in the entire city. So finally one night we went there. It was this really beautiful summer evening, and we got our gelato and we sat in the park. And for a few moments, we just ate there quietly. But then Ariane broke the silence. She looked at me and asked, "You know, we're eating two different things, don't you?" And I didn't quite understand because I looked down at her cup and I looked at my cup and I said, "No, I ordered the same thing as you." "We are still eating two different things," she said to me. "I'm eating gelato. You're eating guilt. My body will enjoy and process this gelato perfectly, and it will go right through me. That guilt will stick to you and you'll gain weight." That was a really big aha moment for me. Have you ever thought about the emotions you feel when you're eating something that you feel you shouldn't be? Do you sit there eating guilt and shame and frustration as well as whatever food you're eating? Experiencing that feeling of guilt while I ate created the stress response in my body, which caused my body to hold on to weight. So this is why it's so important to look at what emotions do we feel, not just around our weight loss journey as a whole, but when we're actually eating. So back to the questions, let's talk about the relationship we have with moving our bodies. How do you feel about exercise? How do you feel when you think about having to exercise? How do you feel when you start to exercise? Maybe you don't feel good enough, or embarrassed, or inferior. How do you feel about your ability to exercise consistently? Do you feel ashamed because this is a struggle, or imprisoned by this idea? How do you feel about your ability to exercise consistently? Again, disappointed, not good enough. Do you feel ashamed because of your struggle to exercise? Now, I know that I'm going through these questions pretty fast, but don't worry about answering all of these questions. Some might trigger an emotion or memory for you, and some won't. I just want you to take this moment to be honest with yourself and jot what comes to mind. Some more questions. How do you feel about other women who are skinny or just skinnier than you? What do you say about them? What emotions do you have towards them? There's no right or wrong answer. All that matters here is that you're honest. I know when I was struggling with my weight, I had a sense of unfairness and jealousy towards other women who seemed to make being thin look so easy. Seeing them just brought up my own insecurities and emotions of feeling inferior. Now let's look at the emotions we may have around our body. How do you feel about your body? When you look in the mirror, what emotions do you feel? Do you hear a harsh, critical voice that makes you feel not good enough and ashamed? What is that voice saying to you? What emotions do you feel when I even suggest you going to look in the mirror? And here's a tough one. What emotions come up if I mention you having to look at yourself naked in a mirror? How do you feel about your body? Do you feel safe or do you feel scared? Do you feel ashamed or angry at your body? All these questions lead to figuring out what emotions we have about weight loss. They play a huge role in our ability to eat well and exercise and in our ability to lose weight. Can you see how there would be a difference in someone's ability to stay consistent with healthy habits when they look at it as something that is fun, exciting, and adventurous, as opposed to a journey of suffering, deprivation, and never quite feeling good enough? Emotions rule our actions, which is why it's so critical to take a very close look at this. What's so fascinating is that as we look at the emotions under the symptoms, we can find that the emotions that are holding us back from feeling good in our skin and losing weight may not have anything to do with our health, but another aspect of our life. And oftentimes it's around both. So let me ask you this. What area in your life is currently causing you the most stress? Is it work, a relationship, finances? Where do you feel stress in your life? Is there a particular person who is really pushing your buttons right now? Write anything that comes to mind. And what negative emotions are you feeling about life as a whole? Do you feel sad or lonely? Do you feel hurt or angry? Do you feel afraid? What emotions do you feel towards other people? And what emotions do you feel towards yourself? Again, you don't have to answer all of these questions. Just trust what comes to mind and jot that down. What emotions do you feel towards other people? And what emotions do you feel towards yourself? Again, you don't have to answer all of these questions. Just trust what comes to mind and jot that down. Take a look at the list of emotions on the screen. Which ones are you feeling in your life right now? Do you feel anxious or depressed or disgusted or even dealing with grief or insecurity or regret or remorse? Do you feel ashamed right now? Write down what comes up for you. Write down the feelings that you're feeling in your life right now. When I did this process, for me, a big emotion was worry. When I felt unsure or uncomfortable about something, which at that time was often, I would turn to food. And it wasn't until I dealt with this emotion when it came up with tapping that I started to feel in control again and had the ability to push away that craving, to really not feel a victim to the craving. When you felt those emotions that you've been listing on the tree, when you've been in that moment feeling that feeling, how have you acted when they come up? Look at the emotions you wrote down so far. When you feel those emotions, how do you act? Like me, have you reached for food? If so, what type of food have you eaten? Has it been a type of food or maybe a specific food or just any food? And how much have you eaten when that emotion comes up? Do you eat just a little or do you overeat? Also, how did these emotions affect your exercise? Do you lose motivation to exercise? I can't say it enough. Tapping on emotions is incredibly powerful, and hopefully you can already see how releasing some of these emotions could change not only your ability to lose weight, but the way that you feel overall. When we tap on negative emotions and release them, we get our control back. The cravings and the urges to binge eat disappear, and we're able to make decisions about food from a calm and controlled space. We're also able to make better decisions about exercise. We feel more energized and engaged with our bodies and more motivated to move our bodies and take care of them. Another huge benefit of clearing these negative emotions is the way it improves our ability to digest our food and release weight. Remember all the science I shared before about the emotions like stress, anxiety, and overwhelm, and how they release chemicals that hamper our ability to lose weight. When you tap on the emotions and clear them, your body is able to lose weight, even with the same level of eating and exercise. One study in particular showed exactly how this works. Dr. Peta Stapleton is a clinical psychologist in Queensland, Australia, who has spent the last 20 years treating eating disorders in her patients and researching weight loss and specific eating behaviors. In her control study with Bond University, she worked with 89 women who were between 31 and 56 years old and had a body mass index that qualified them as being obese. Over an 8-week period, they completed approximately 2 hours of tapping per week, which averages out to be about 15 minutes a day. Just by doing tapping, without dieting or exercising, participants lost an average of 16 pounds by the end of the study. 16 pounds. That shows how much the body can react to release weight just by changing the emotions and the body chemistry. Okay, let's keep going. You're doing awesome. We're going through symptoms and emotions. Stay connected with yourself. It is safe to have this new awareness. You deserve to be able to be free of these things that are holding you back. The symptoms and the emotions are just a start. We're getting there. Let's keep going. So next, we're going to move to the trunk of the tree, which is filled with any important events that may have affected your weight and how you feel about your body. So there are two kinds of events: those that happen and are easy to move beyond, and those that affect us and stay with us. The difference between the two kinds of events is whether or not we have processed them emotionally, energetically, and physically. One person can think back to something that happened, say, in grade school, like being scolded by a teacher. And they'll be able to say, yeah, I remember feeling embarrassed that she singled me out like that, but it doesn't bother me anymore. The memory is there, but it doesn't have the emotional charge it once did. The next person thinks about being scolded in grade school and has a totally different experience. She might feel it in her gut when she recalls that moment. Intense feelings of embarrassment, anger, or hurt come up. This is an experience that hasn't been processed. Addressing that past event with tapping will help her let go of the pain and move on. The event doesn't necessarily have to be a specific moment or a one-day event. It can be a series of events or a time period in your life. Weight gain can often happen during a period of time like when we go through a divorce or after losing a job. For example, a client of mine had gained 15 pounds in 6 months. She had started a new job 6 months earlier, and the stress from her job, in particular her boss, who would call her and complain, had led to the weight gain. Her symptoms, so the leaf, was her weight gain. Her emotion, the branch, was frustration and stress. And the event, the trunk, and in this case a number of events together, was the time period after she started her new job, where she was dealing with the stress caused by her new boss. When it comes to these events, it doesn't matter if you consider the event to be big or small, because seemingly small events can feel really big, especially in the unconscious brain. So let's think about your events. Think about all your experiences from when you were a kid till today around your weight and around your body. You don't need to remember everything. These questions are designed to help you recall the standout moments that have impacted you. So as I go through these questions, just answer the ones that really stand out in your mind. What do you remember around your family life, around your mother or father, or your siblings? What about your friends or teachers? What do you remember from grade school or middle school or high school? Now go ahead, jot anything down that comes up. What do you remember from that wonderful time period when our bodies were changing? What do you remember hearing from other girls or from the boys? Or what do you remember not hearing? Maybe you remember boys saying nice things about other girls and not you. Or maybe you remember them saying lots of things about you and the attention made you feel uncomfortable. Maybe they were saying nice things or maybe mean things, but you weren't sure how to process the attention either way. What have people said about your weight? What did they say about your body? What experiences have you had as an adult? Remember the couple of experiences I shared before, the one where a woman I met said, "You're bigger than I thought," where I just felt like I heard those words and wanted to curl up into a ball. And the other hurtful experience that I mentioned where a mentor told me, "You're fat and no one is going to listen to you until you lose weight." What experiences have you had that had a big emotional charge for you in the same way that those had for me? Let's think about events around exercise or movement. What experiences do you have around exercise? Did you feel good exercising growing up? Did you like sports or gym class or all those opportunities to exercise? How about as an adult? Is there an experience that sticks out in your mind? Maybe when you were running or playing a sport or when you were at the gym. Or maybe there are a whole bunch of experiences around the gym that were unpleasant. Maybe you just feel anxious and stressed every time you have to exercise. Write down whatever comes up. I remember I looked at exercise as a punishment for not being good enough. It felt like torture, something I needed to use every ounce of willpower to get myself to do. When I began going through this process, I remembered how my soccer coach and gym teacher would make me run laps when they caught me not paying attention, which was often. This was a very simple event. It wasn't a huge trauma. It was a simple event, but it led to the belief that exercise equals punishment. Now let's move on beyond just direct weight and body experiences. Here, I want you to ask yourself one key question in particular. When did this weight gain begin? Was there a particular event or time period when it all started? Remember the example I gave a minute ago about a client of mine who started gaining weight when she started a new job. What changed in your life when you started to gain weight? Was it during a stressful time? Were you having any challenges at work or maybe in a relationship? Or you just felt unfulfilled and bored in your life? When we don't find peace around a certain event, we continue to try to avoid the pain from the event by turning to food. Oftentimes, we don't see the direct relationship between the event and the weight gain. Are there any particular experiences that stick out for you? Write them down. Whether, again, it feels big or small, if it jumps out at you, write it down. As you're writing, let me give you another example. A client of mine named Victoria was doing this process, and one event in particular that she had originally felt was a small event jumped out at her. Nearly 30 years earlier, her first post-college landlord said 6 words to her that had a huge impact. He said, "You don't deserve to be here." It was at that moment that she began turning to food for comfort, feeling afraid that she was unworthy of the good things in her life, as her landlord had suggested. She tapped through the memory and the experience with a lot of tears, and she released the sadness and anger she had been holding for years. After the tapping, she was able to think back on the memory without the emotional charge that it had before. This is the amazing power of tapping on events from our past. It can eliminate the emotional charge. When describing the charge, she said, I feel like a switch has flipped in my brain. And from the release of that experience and the deep emotions and meaning that was behind it, she began to feel like she deserved good things. She began eating better and exercising. And the best part is that losing weight became enjoyable to her. That's the part that I love about this work. I love it so much. When you release the stuff holding you back, losing weight becomes so much easier and so much more enjoyable. When you think about events from your life that may have impacted you, remember that the event can be completely unrelated to your weight, the way it was for Victoria. And it could be directly related like it was for me in many ways. So take a second and think about what events may have contributed to your weight gain. And if you haven't already done so, write them down. You don't have to write all the details of each event out. Just write something down like divorce or that event at school. Whatever will help you remember that event when you go back to it later. This event is the first thing you'll need to tap on after the presentation. Now, we're not going to do tapping just now, as I don't want to overwhelm you. What I really want to do here is guide you to find all the things you need to tap on. And then we'll create a roadmap for you so that you can tap and begin to clear these things at your own pace. If you're not sure what to say when you tap, let me give you a really helpful hint. Read from your tree. Just giving a voice to these events and emotions is an incredibly powerful way to release the charge. So now let's get to some of the root causes of what's going on for you, and so you know what else that you can tap on. Let's move on to the fourth and final part of the tree. It's the roots. You're probably thinking, how can there be more? I've already discovered so many things I didn't see before. And even if you haven't discovered as many things as you'd like yet, be patient and just continue to try to connect with yourself and what's going on for you. Having this awareness doesn't mean that you're broken. It simply means that there are layers of emotions and beliefs that are holding you back from your true power and your true essence. Have compassion for yourself and acknowledge yourself for having the courage to take an honest look at your life and be open to something greater. Let's keep expanding our awareness by looking at these roots. All right, so the roots are the most fundamental factor that is shaping your ability to lose weight. These are your beliefs. This is ultimately the most important part of your tree, but it also is not always the easiest one to figure out right away. For example, when a client tells me she hates herself and her body, she's actually saying that she hates her belief about herself, which might be, I'm not good enough. But this belief isn't always obvious, and sometimes it takes a little more work to get to. But it is the belief that leads to how we view the world and thus the experiences we have in it, as well as the emotions we feel in our experiences, and in the end, the symptoms and the side effect that we outwardly see. It is the roots that control the growth of the tree. If you plant an apple seed, you'll grow apple tree roots and an apple tree trunk and an apple tree branches and leaves. In the same way, if you grow roots with a belief that you're not good enough, you'll grow a trunk that matches that belief. You'll attract people and experiences that validate that you're not good enough. And then you'll grow branches that match that belief. You'll find that with the experiences and people in your life, you'll feel emotions that match your belief. And then, of course, the leaves of your tree, the symptoms, will be in line with the beliefs that grew the tree. But when you're able to change the roots, you'll find that your life experiences and your emotions and the results you get will all line up with the changes you make in your beliefs. Change your beliefs and you will change your life forever. So, what are the beliefs you have about your body and getting healthy? I want you to begin jotting down any of these beliefs if they resonate with you. For example, people in my family are all overweight. It's just my genetics. Losing weight means I need to deprive myself. People like me are never in shape. My body is working against me. What are the stories you tell yourself as to why you've never been able to lose weight or keep it off? These are the stories we must explore if we want to make real change. When you begin tapping on beliefs, you'll soon discover that what you thought were facts were actually just beliefs. The stories we tell ourselves as to why nothing works for us creates a type of self-fulfilling prophecy. Salman Rushdie, a British Indian novelist, famously said, and I love this quote, he said, "Those who do not have power over the story that dominates their lives, the power to retell it, rethink it, deconstruct it, joke about it, and change it as times change, truly are powerless because they cannot think new thoughts." When you begin to tap on these beliefs and stories, you'll be amazed at the shift that happens in your life. You may consciously know that it's just a story or a belief that's not true, but those stories have such an emotional intensity that plain logic or self-talk don't make the difference. We are so conditioned to pressing play and starting that movie in our mind that's called Why I Never Can Lose Weight, and it controls our reality. This is why it's important to get clear on your movie, on the beliefs as to why you haven't gotten the results you want. When you tap while focusing on an emotional belief, you'll find the belief loses its emotional charge. That is when you have the freedom to choose another belief. From my own experience and from working with clients, just plain logic doesn't work. We need to focus on the emotional charge and use the tapping. So here are two great sentences that you can use to figure out what beliefs you have. So finish this sentence. I can't lose weight or be thin because. I'll say it again. I can't lose weight or be thin because. Take a second to finish that sentence first. What comes up right away? Don't censor that gut reaction that immediately pops up. It's the first reaction that's coming straight from your unconscious. That's what we want to write down. And oftentimes this first reaction is something we would never say out loud, but it's what we think. That is why it's so important to get clear on it. All right, so the next sentence to finish. I want to lose weight, but. So again, I want to lose weight, but. Take a second to answer that. I want to lose weight, but. What's the initial thing that pops up as the reason why you can't lose weight? Write it down. Okay, let's keep going. Let's answer some questions to get at some of your beliefs about losing weight. How do you feel about losing weight? Are you good at losing weight? Is it easy for you? Is it safe to lose weight? Is it safe to be thin? What will other people think about you if you lose weight? What will your family say? How will your friends react? What will people say at work? What would be different if you were to lose weight, if you were to succeed? What would be better and what would be worse? What's the downside of losing weight? Let's look at your beliefs about food. Do any of these resonate with you? If so, just jot them down. And again, I know I'm going through this quickly, but I want you to trust that what comes up in the moment is all you need. So do any of these resonate with you? Healthy food is bland and boring. I need to deprive myself to lose weight. I have to obsess about calories to lose weight. I can't eat what I want. I can never be healthy and feel satisfied. What about your beliefs around exercise? When you exercise, do any of these beliefs about yourself come up? You're doing it wrong. You can't keep up. You look ridiculous. You're too fat. You're too weak. There's no point. It's just not good enough. What is that critical voice that comes up when you exercise? Let's talk about the beliefs about your body. What do you believe about your own body? Do you trust your body? Does your body react the way you want it to? You can finish the sentence, my body is. Often I hear women say that they feel like their body is betraying them, or no matter how much they try, their body is never good enough. All of these questions lead you to your fundamental beliefs about your body, your weight, and your ability to lose weight. If when I ask, how do you feel about losing weight? You say, I hate trying to lose weight because I have to deprive myself and suffer. Well, you have a belief. Your belief is weight loss equals pain and struggle. If that is your belief, how easy do you think it will be to have a pleasurable experience around weight loss? You'd likely be completely shut down to the reality that losing weight can be about fun and pleasure. Because it can be, it seriously can be, it is. Remember this, change is sustainable only if it's pleasurable. Change is sustainable only if it's pleasurable. If we don't find the joy in this journey, we'll never get the results we want. We need to make room for that joy by addressing these beliefs. We need to open ourselves up to the very real possibilities by releasing these limiting beliefs. So can you see how changing your fundamental unconscious beliefs could affect your relationship with your body and your ability to lose weight? When we look at this tree collectively, these side effects, the emotions, the events, the beliefs are all shaping your experience around weight loss, around food and exercise, around your motivation to lose weight, around your biology, and around your body confidence and what you feel and believe about your body around everything. When you look at the tree, you see the entire picture of your weight loss story and your weight loss blueprint. With these roots and this trunk and these branches and leaves, could you predict what kind of success you'll continue to have around weight loss? Are there places you could improve the blueprint of this tree to get better results around your weight loss and body? Can you see the limitation of regular weight loss programs and why I said that you need to focus first on what's going on in your head before you think about what you're eating or how you're exercising? What I love about this tree is that it's a wonderful visual that clearly shows the different things that are going on. There is no need to blame yourself. Just know that you picked up these beliefs and experiences that are holding you back over time, and know that when you see them, it means that you have the ability to heal them. What you can do going forward, the way to get the best results with tapping, is to look at each of these emotions and tap on them individually until you find there is no further charge, no further emotional or visceral connection to it. The goal here is to be stress-free, to relieve yourself of the anxiety, anger, frustration, and disappointment at yourself and at others. And to also have a tool that can support you on your weight loss journey whenever you experience any obstacles. The goal is to be able to look back at your childhood, on your previous experiences with your weight and your body and say, hey, I had some rough times, but they're in the past. I've learned from them, let them go, and now I'm ready to move on. The goal is to look at those old roots, those disempowering beliefs, and change them to empowering beliefs. Imagine what it would be like if you had empowering beliefs, experiences, and emotions that all led you to the results that were easy not only to achieve, but maintain. That's the path we're going down, and that's why we're going to create a roadmap together to get there.